Hallowed Fountain. Stevens will do what Todd Stevens normally does. A land and a mana accelerant. This time, it's Noble Hierarch. An island and a search for his Kanta. Is a great start here for Benjamin Nikolich. To Stevens, we go. He's picked up a copy of Misty Rainforest.
And remember, Stevens with some Dramoka's commands.
Yes.
Be a good one to have. Because otherwise he cannot win the game against Search for his Kanta.
Well, few can.
Few can. It's no slight to Todd. It's not his fault. It's a very hard card to defeat.
It's a nice little magic card right there. Hallowed Fountain, the weapon of choice here for Stevens. See where we go next here. It'll be a Scavenging Ooze and an attack here for 1. So we'll head back over to Benjamin Nikolich, who will take a look at the top card of his deck here with Search for his Kanta.
Now, it's optimistic to think that the Scavenging Ooze can survive for all that long, but another possible way for preventing Search for his Kanta flipping over at least for a little while.
Field of Ruin. We'll head back over to Stevens now. Looks like Scavenging Ooze is ready to rock and roll into the red zone. Eat that Snapcaster Mage. And now here's a Misty Rainforest, pass the turn back. Now keep in mind, as Stevens is going to lose his Hallowed Fountain, search up a basic land, as will Nikolich, that Stevens does have copies of Spell Queller in his deck. And those will be effective here at taking out cards like Settle the Wreckage.
Yeah, between Voice of Resurgence and Spell Queller, he's got some nice options for fighting Settle the Wreckage.
Let's go back over to Ben now. He'll take a look, as he's got the red mana that he was missing. And he's going to put Settle the Wreckage into the graveyard. Now, this is kind of interesting, too, because Todd's Settle the Wreckages are obviously horrible here.
Horrible.
Nikolich's are good, but not great. And I am curious, because both these players have made a deep run into the tournament, does Todd Stevens know that Nikolich does have Settle the Wreckage?
Yeah, Settle the Wreckage is, it will have moments on Nikolich's side of being very good, but not reliably so.
Looks like Stevens would like to eat the Settle Wreckage from the graveyard, so he will. Let's go back over to Todd now, who is going to come in here for 4 points of damage. This will be a Path to Exile. Will we see Spell Queller work its way into the equation here? We will not. So Stevens will take this opportunity to search up a land.
Yeah, I think at this stage of the game, first of all, the use is not doing a whole lot, and second, I think that Stevens is hungry for more mana. So not the thing he wants to pick a fight over.
Give himself a basic island, Will Stevens. And now here's a Tireless Tracker. We might have a Logic Knot here. That's timely there for Nikolich, because with the fetch land on the battlefield, some real work could have gotten done there with that Tracker. But Tracker is solved here for Benjamin. Temple Garden to play there for Stevens, and we'll head back over to Benjamin, who will take a look at the top card here.
Pretty good spot here potentially for Nikolich to land a Planeswalker, as Stevens without much of a battlefield presence right now.
Nikolich still thinking about this card. It's actually face down on the table right now as he shuffles between his hand on if he wants to take it or not. Looks like the answer is no. Hallowed Fountain's going to go away. Nikolich will just pass the turn back. Cryptic Command up at the ready here. Stevens is going to sacrifice this Misty Rainforest and dig a land out of the deck. We'll be heading back Stevens' way in just a moment. And we'll see what he's able to put together, of course. There's another reliquary, a Todd Stevens staple.
The one legitimately powerful card he plays all the time.
Notable here by Stevens that he is leaving up this mana, not attacking. Here's a Snapcaster Mage.
With Path in the graveyard, I feel like this is good enough to warrant the Spell Queller.
Oh, here is a Spell Queller. Now, do you Spell Queller the Snapcaster, or do you Spell Queller the spell the Snapcaster wanted to get? I think that's an interesting question because now here's a Lightning Bolt. Bzz. Take care of the Spell Queller. Now, cast the Path to Exile.
Well, you kind of, if you Spell Queller the spell that he wants to get, then the Spell Queller dies, then the spell gets unlocked?
Mm-hmm.
I guess the other way the Snapcaster gets unlocked. I don't know. It doesn't. I think it matters a ton if there's some sort of interaction.
I don't think it matters a ton. Here's Jason Mind Sculptor. Hello.
It doesn't matter a ton.
Yeah, because Jace is here.
Yeah, you know.
Brainstorm time here for Benjamin Nikolich. He'll take a look at 1 and 2 and 3 cards. 2 will be going back here in just a moment. Nikolich a little bit short on mana, but he's got these great ways to increase the quality of his draw step between Jace and Search for Iskanta. But though he's short on lands, if he needs some, these cards will find him. And there he will play a land. And he'll pass the turn back over to Stevens. Stevens will untap those lands and that Noble Hierarch. Now keep in mind Stevens does have a copy of Teferi in his hand, along with a copy of Eternal Witness. So these games are not going to be short ones, it appears, though the Planeswalkers, if they are uncontested, can run away with things very, very quickly.
And I think Nikolich plays this style of game a little bit better than Stevens, because Stevens has a lot of draw steps that don't necessarily play well in Planeswalker games, creatures that take a turn or two to be able to do anything, and Nikolich's deck is just nothing but counters and removal spells. So Stevens can hang a little bit in the games if they take this sort of shape, but they're not good for him on the balance. I think Nikolich is favored if both players have a Planeswalker.
Well, Stevens has got a lot to think about here.
And the other thing is, if Stevens spends a lot of time and energy, trying to get ahead on the battle for Planeswalkers or manage the Jace the Mind Sculptor, Nikolich still has that Search for Iskanta that's also developing into another card that can grind out a game just as effectively.
Love this play here by Todd, taking a moment to attack with his Noble Hierarch into a Jace the Mind Sculptor. Just going to fall down to 2. Might not seem like much, but he will take the opportunity to do it. Here's a Witness. And I'm curious what Witness will target. It's going to target a Tracker. Tracker will come down. Colonnade, the follow-up. He's built a nice little battlefield here to go after Jace, assuming, of course, that Settle the Wreckage is not involved. Sacred Foundry is going to tap for a little bit of mana here. And this is a Path to Exile on the Tracker. Stevens will get to search up a land. And don't forget his last card in hand, Teferi, Hero of Dominaria. And there's a basic forest. No clue, of course, because the Tracker is long gone. So we head back over to Nikolich, who knows exactly the card he's going to be drawing because of the Jace, but also because of the Search for Iskanta, if he wants to draw it. He will brainstorm again now. Couple of lands among those cards. Maybe the most important, Cryptic Command.
Yep, another fine tool for defending Jace on a number of fronts.
Field of Ruin, the land for the turn. And we're going to head back Todd Stevens' way. Didn't get a great look at what he drew to go along with that copy of Teferi.
And now this is where Cryptic Command covers you against everything. If you try to animate the Colonnade and go after Jace, Cryptic covers. And if you try to resolve Teferi, Cryptic covers.
And we can't forget, too, that Field of Ruin does a nice job against the Colonnade, as well as first things first. Stevens is going to crack a clue and find a new card, of which he found a powerful one there in Jace. And it's also funny because, do my eyes deceive me, Patrick? I think that's a Nissa Vastwood Seer in his hand, and there's actually one in his deck, so he weirdly has access to 3 Planeswalkers this turn.
But he's got to do something else to get after the Jace, because as things currently stand, the Eternal Witness plus a Exalted Trigger still just trades off with a Snapcaster Mage.
But that might not be a bad place to start. And that's exactly where Stevens will start. He'll make the trade. He'll follow up. He's going to go to Teferi. And I got a feeling Nikolich is going to say, I don't think so. This is a little too good for you to have. So here is Cryptic Command, counter.
This turn's also getting some stuff into Nikolich's graveyard to get the Azcanta flipped over as well.
And we know how powerful that card can be once it transforms. And Nikolich already knew he was going to draw a Flooded Strand, so he's going to very quickly transform Azcanta into the Sunken Ruin. Now Jace will go Brainstorming. 3 cards coming. 2 cards going back there for Benjamin Nikolich. That's his 3rd Jace activation of the game with regards to Brainstorm, and it normally doesn't take many more than that for the Jeskai control deck to declare victory, as there is a way to shuffle the deck now, too, with the Scalding Tarn.
The Azcanta also can effectively act as a way to clear off some dead draws, too.
Yeah, this gets pretty tough here. The tough thing here for Stevens is he's picked up a copy of Dromoka Command, which is, we'll call it a turn late.
Yeah. Would have had some windows to be good, and now the game is not about that.
But the tough thing here for Stevens is that his Planeswalkers that he can deploy in both Jace and Nissa Vastwood Seer, they might just be too late.
Yeah, and I think, as mentioned before, Nikolich just plays this sort of game so much better because his answers are all clean. He's got Snapcaster Mage and Cryptic Commands to manage what Stevens eventually does, and a lot of Stevens' cards just don't work the right way.
Ooh, Peak is interesting. Because now Nikolich knows what he has to worry about, which is Dromoka's command. But it doesn't hurt that he knows that there's a Jason and Nissa Vastwood Seer as well. So Peak is this weird inclusion where, for Benjamin, obviously he has the ability to play Opt, he has the ability to play Serum Visions, things of that nature. He's opted to go with Peak here this weekend. Been ridiculed a bit by some of his friends like John Rossum, but looks like this has been working out okay.
Yeah, I don't know. The Scry 1 and look at their hand are just apples and oranges.
They're very different.
But the idea that it's like, why wouldn't you just play with Scry 1? Like, isn't that just so much better? Not necessarily. Depends.
With a deck like this, it's pretty nice to have the information on what your opponent's up to. Here's Snapcaster Mage.
I bet in this spot right here that Peak correlates with winning way more than Opt does.
I think I agree.
Not to say you should play one or the other. It's just they're just two different things.
Cryptic Command. Going to counter Jason, draw a card. Will Stevens go towards Nissa Vastwood here now? Has Nikolich just staring at a Path Exile in his hand? The answer is no. So we go back over to Benjamin Nikolich, who is continuing to put a stranglehold on this game by brainstorming with Jace the Mind Sculptor. A Peak, a Search, a Steam Vents. 2 cards headed back to the top of the deck. That's a Flooded Strand to make it a great brainstorm with the shuffle. Can't forget, too, as you mentioned, is Azcanta, but also Field of Ruin will allow the shuffle as well.
Yep.
And at some point, because I think this matchup is going to take a while, and I don't want to say this game is over, but it's certainly starting to feel that way as Gavany Township is the draw. Todd Stevens does have to weigh the clock into the equation.
And the post-board games are likely to be even slower than the first game. People have the right reactive cards. Yeah, if I'm in Stevens' spot, I don't think I'm at 0% to win. I'll keep going from here, but I think you should consider packing this game up pretty soon if it doesn't improve.
Yeah, I think especially when you see him lose the Nissa there. There's the Township. The Colonnade's covered. The Township doesn't really matter all that much, and it's covered as well. And we're talking a 5th Jace Brainstorm and maybe the first Azcanta activation. Seems tough to me, partner.
Yep.
Let you know a quick update here for you. Ted Felicetti with blue-white control took care of Jonathan Rawson playing humans. apparently in 2 games. Very quick result there. So for Ted Felicetti, it's a 5th SCG Tour Open top 8. Congratulations to him. We'll see him in the elimination rounds later this evening, as a flooded string will be sacrificed here by Benjamin Nikolich.
Modern Challenge. If you would like to play in either of these 4 p.m. side events, the 4 p.m. Sealed Spectacular or 4 p.m. Modern Challenge, please make your way to the side event registration stage.
Peek again. Get a little look. Draw a card. And now here is Snapcaster Mage. There's your Township activation to make Snapcaster Mage lose the battle. And now there's an Escanta activation. Top 4 cards here for Benjamin Nikolich. That's not a bad one.
I think it's time to let this go.
I'm with you. I'm with you on this one. I think it's just too hard.
Yep.
And I think that these games normally you see, like in standard a matchup like this, the game would actually go faster after sideboard. Players would sideboard Nicolich, Siphoners or some creature or whatever. Yeah. I think it goes slower after sideboard.
For sure.
Todd's going to bring in negates, maybe surgical extractions, and an Elspeth when we get to that. And Nikolich is going to bring in more control elements and probably take out things like Settle the Wreckage. I think, and I mean, this is a 6th, maybe a 7th Brainstorm, another Cryptic Command, another Snapcaster Mage in hand. The clock in situations like this become just as much of a factor. Yeah, and I actually appreciate Nikolich doing this.
Yeah.
And just saying, like, you are not winning.
Because a draw is so bad for both of them.
Yeah, you are not winning.
Yeah.
It would take, I don't even know what it would take for you to win this game, but you are not winning it. Nikolich shows his hand, and Todd Stevens says, I will concede then, as Benjamin Nikolich with Jeskai Control is going to win game number 1 here over Todd Stevens playing Manton mid-range. And we turn our attention to the sideboard. I mentioned the 4 negates that Stevens has, along with the surgical extractions. There are 3 of those. 2 engineered explosives, 2 Stony Silence, 2 Warship, a Baneslayer Angel, and an Elspeth Sun's Champion.
So I like the Elspeth and the 4 copies of negates. I could see going to the surgical extractions if you think the games are really going to go on that long. And Todd's got some amount of creature removal to get rid of anyway. So you can talk me into it, but I definitely like the negates. The Elspeth seems good too.
Well, we take a look at Nikolich's sideboard. 2 Dispel, 2 Vendilion Click, 2 Celestial Purge, 2 Surgical Extractions of his own, 2 Ceremonious Rejection, 5 one-ofs, Baneslayer Angel, Lyra Dawnbringer, Negate, Timely Reinforcements, Wear Tear.
+1 negate, and same 60 otherwise, I think.
Let's take a look. I like the idea of Vendilion Click here.
I don't really want to. I don't want to have cards in my deck where a lot of their equity is built in their ability to brawl. I think Stevens just does that better.
Okay.
I would like to keep the deck very creature light and just try to be a better controlled deck than what Todd's is. So if he's got, this is another sort of function of if you have too many bad cards, then Click's floor is pretty high, and I don't mind bringing it in, but I don't think that's the way I would want to approach the matchup. Also, if you think that Stevens is going to try to get it done with Planeswalkers, that makes Click more attractive there too. So could bring it in for sure, but definitely the negate.
Well, those are the options there for both players. Game number 2 going to be underway here in just a moment. We will talk about the StarCityGames.com weekly sale here one more time in our Swiss rounds because we want to make sure that you save some money on some non-English singles, like up to 10%.
Yep. Make sure to go to StarCityGames.com/weekly sale. Check out the weekly sale. There's a new one that goes up every Monday, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, so make sure to be going back to the site at least once a week to see what new categories are on sale for a limited time remaining, since this will be Monday, 11 a.m. and not that much time. 10% off all non-English singles.
Save some money.
Save some money.
Get some sweet cards. And get ready to watch Nikolich versus Stevens, game number 2, as both these players will draw up their opening hands. Looks like Nikolich is going to mulligan very, very quickly. Stevens appears to be keeping. Nikolich, a member of Team Lotus Box. His teammate, Jonathan Rossum, unfortunately just picked up a loss this round, playing for top 8. But we have seen this team have so much success here on the SCG Tour. 21 for Benjamin Nikolich. So young. 7 open top 8s. Could be his 8th one here this week, and he's got that invitational top 8. He's already got a win this year. Could be a second win as well. Studying cyber security engineering, and a big fan of DJ Khaled, which I imagine you are too.
I'm not.
Guess I got that wrong. Weird.
There's a video I've seen of him basically doing a motivational tape sort of exercise. That one is I enjoy for ironic reasons.
You buy into that.
Yeah.
Good old DJ Khaled. Let's see what turn 2 here for Stevens brings. Some slight technical difficulties, unfortunately, so we're going to keep it here at the moment. Give me the bird in there for 1, as Nikolich will untap, draw a card. He'll just play a Scalding Tarn and pass the turn back, as Stevens is going to sacrifice a Misty Rainforest. There's Benjamin. It's a good look.
There he is again.
He's back now.
In action.
Here's a breeding pool. Nailed it. Back now. Spell Queller of the draw. See what this is. Scavenging Ooze. All right.
Now Stevens, they're sitting on some counter spells. Looks like a negate and spell queller.
Yeah, Stevens gets to do this cool thing, right, where he gets to play he gets to attempt to play a tempo game. My reservations for that are Nikolich's interaction is 1 mana.
Yes, and Stevens' clock is really slow.
Yeah. Now this is an attack for 3 with the Exalted trigger. And now there's a Stirring Wildwood past the turn back. And so Stevens kind of has to play this weird kind of protect my best creature type game. I don't know how well equipped he is to do this, because as you see, 1 mana interaction. Now there's a negate. Nikolich can fight back, but it doesn't look like he will. He does have a Logic Knot in hand.
Yeah, I just don't know if the Scavenging Ooze is impactful enough to be worth that kind of fight from Nikolich's side. I think you got to like cast some stuff here to test spell and to make sure your hand doesn't get too jammed up with cards, but I don't think Nikolich is that concerned with the Scavenging Ooze such that he would really pick a fight over that.
Yeah, nor do I. There's a Searcher Escanta. We're going to head back over to Stevens now, who will draw. This will be an attack for 3 yet again. Nikolich is going to fall down to 11. Looks like Nikolich is going to sacrifice a Scalding Tarn, get himself a Steam Vent, sacrifice that one too. There's a Sacred Foundry. Now we head back over to Nikolich. Searcher Escanta is going to put a negate into the graveyard. And we'll pass the turn back, so no 5th land here for Benjamin. Stevens is going to remove some cards from the graveyard with the Ooze. Let's go back over.
Yeah, try to pin down the Logic Knot and prevent the Escanta from flipping.
How about 3 more? How about okay? Stevens with a negate and a Spell Queller, mystery card to go along with that. This plan is working so far, Patrick.
Yeah.
Cryptic. Well, I definitely want to interact with it.
And interesting about the build this week is how light, I mean, it's actually 0 copies, not that Todd necessarily knows this, of something like Supreme Verdict or Wrath of God.
Yeah.
It's just Settle the Wreckage as a sweeper.
Yep.
So Stevens doesn't have to worry about overextending the board. Nikolich's build does not have a way to punish him for doing that.
Spell Queller will take care of the Cryptic command. Stevens still has negate in hand, by the way. There's a lightning bolt. Here's a negate on that lightning bolt. That will resolve. What is this? Timely reinforcements. Interesting.
Okay, that's a lot of breathing space here for Nikolich. Fortunately, Stevens has an attacker that can fly, but Stevens' clock is, a little on the slow side. He's trying to play a little bit of a slower game and prevent Nikolich from resolving anything very impactful, but attack him slowly, and so timely reinforcements could be worth several turns.
Now this is a great window for Elspeth. Sun's Champion, the 6-mana Planeswalker, which can be difficult to resolve against in Jeskai strategy. It's in there now. And now the Aaron Barrett tokens, they are showing up in mass, folks. But Todd Stevens can make way more of them than Benjamin Nikolich can. Stevens will play another Noble Hierarch. This will be an attack here for 4 in the air. But Stevens is now on E. No cards left. A pretty good battlefield. But now Nikolich gets to kind of do his thing. Doesn't have to worry about any more counter spells at the moment. And we'll see what he can put together.
But he's getting attacked on a lot of fronts right now. And he doesn't have access to his graveyard either, which is a part of the problem. Can't get the Exconta flipped over. His Snapcaster Mages are basically shut off. And a big draw there from Stevens.
Well, if you're going to make a move, you got to make it on my terms.
The nail in the coffin.
Yes. Voice of Resurgence. Soldiers along with Spell Queller happy to attack here. Looks like Scavenging Ooze is going to hang back, though.
Yeah, Scavenging Ooze is too valuable kind of on over the long term here on being as a way to, make sure the graveyard doesn't come into play on Nikolich's side.
Quite the wreckage that has been settled here. That said, we will have an Ely Cassis Elemental token. Cryptic Command will come back. Stevens has left himself, I believe, without the ability. We'll see how Nikolich wants to use this. Because if Nikolich says, tap your team. Actually, this is really interesting if he's even supposed to cast Cryptic Command. He could say tap your team, bounce your Elspeth. He wouldn't be able to recast it. But I don't even know if he's supposed to cast the Elspeth or if he's supposed to cast a Cryptic Command.
Well, the minimum you draw a card.
Well, you're giving your opponent another elemental token.
Oh, sure. Yep.
So long as Todd remembers. And it looks like Elspeth is still out there. What's this here? Boy, Teferi's going to have to be pretty darn good.
Yeah, I don't think there's any way for Nikolich to keep this Teferi on the battlefield for very long. Stevens just has way too much of a presence.
He'll draw a card. Picked up a copy of Hallowed Fountain. Two mana. Bzz. Lightning Helix. Gain some life. Steven's going to come in here with the squad. I'm curious where he's headed. If it's Teferi or if it's Nikolich's life total. We'll have a block there. We might have a double block here on Voice of Resurgence. Looks like we do. So there'll be some trades that are made. Teferi going to fall down to 2. And Voice of Resurgence will die, but another Ely Cassis Elemental token should be on the way. There we are. Big follow-up. This is so interesting. Going to start with Elspeth. Again, Stevens doesn't know Nikolich's deck list.
We assume.
We assume. If he knows it, he knows that there are no wraths.
Yeah, he's safe to put everything on the table.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There are a lot of copies to settle the wreckage, but there are no supreme verdicts, there are no day of judgments, no wrath of gods, so on and so forth. No copies of terminus, which are so popular now, as peak is the draw. Teferi moving on up. Lightning bolt the draw. Here is peak. No cards in hand there for Steven, so just a quick cycle. It's Path to Exile. That'll take care of the knight. And we are heading back over to Todd Stevens after 2 mana was untapped. Draw a card. Will Stevens. And now we see an Elspeth get active once again. So 3 more Aaron Barrett soldier tokens. And now we get to the stage here where, we do need to maybe, if you're Stevens, how creative do I want to get attacking?
Because you still got to worry about Snapcaster plus Settle.
Yep. Another copy of Settle. I mean, Settle's the card you have to worry about, period. Do I want to go to Teferi? Do I want to go to you? Do I want to get my elemental tokens into the mix? What do I want to do? And the interesting thing about Settle in a spot like this is it does make your opponent maybe overthink things and buy you a little bit more time.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to play around Settle the Wreckage in this spot, period. And it's especially tough to play around the possibility of various sweepers that aren't Settle the Wreckage.
Elspeth's going to fall down to 4 from that lightning bolt. Searcher Escanta's going to transform into Escanta. The Sunken Ruin. And Nikolich was happy to keep that card on top of his deck. And now there's a Scalding Tarn, pass the turn back. Beatdowns. I think you got to present lethal. There we go. If you want to hang back with a Voice of Resurgent token, sure.
Right.
But you got to at least try to present lethal here. And now here's your activation of Escanta. He finds a Settle the Wreckage, sure. Here's a Cryptic Command. Well, he already attacked. But I suppose you can bounce a token and draw a card. But Nikolich says this is not going to work for me. And actually, in order to do that, he would have to crack a fetch land to do it. So, Todd Stevens is going to tie things up here against Benjamin Nikolich. Bant mid-range, Jeskai control. Getting ready for their third and final one. Both players playing for top 8 with about 16 minutes and 35 seconds left to go.
So, interesting moment there at the end of that game.
Talk to me.
Nikolich flips over his Escanta.
Yeah.
Passes the turn. Stevens goes to attack. Nikolich activates and fails to find anything of note and loses the game.
Okay.
By not activating the Escanta on his own turn, it reveals that he has no sorcery sweepers to find.
A very good point.
Because if he could find a Supreme Verdict or a Wrath of God, you would definitely go for it there. Clear out the board, and, of course, you still have to manage the Elspeth, but you're not facing lethal next turn. I wonder if Stevens acknowledges that moment, because it is all the information's on the table right there. There's no way that Nikolich doesn't Escanta on his own turn if he has any sorcery sweepers in his deck to find.
It's a good point. Really is.
It's small, but I'm interested if it'll inform Stevens' decision making in game number 3.
Well, game number 3 about to be underway here between Nikolich and Stevens. They'll be given the green light here in just a moment. Todd Stevens, of course, looking for another top 8 on what has been one heck of a resume over the past handful of years. It's gotten pretty darn good this game, has the Denton, Texas native, who now resides out in Roanoke, Virginia, creating content for Star City Games and streaming full-time, of course. 32 years old, 13 open top 8s, looking for number 14 here this weekend. He's got 2 wins, too. does Todd Stevens. And he's got an innovative brew here, but, most weeks he does, which what makes watching him so fun. Former SCG Tour Player of the Year as well.
He loves the bank cards. And that's the other side of that as counter play is, all right, so Nikolich is his beat in that game. Even if he manages to survive that turn, he can't get Elspeth off the battlefield. It's only a matter of time. I think you're supposed to have Kanta on your own turn to keep up appearances.
Sure.
If you're 0% or effectively 0% anyway, then you gave. I believe he gave off some critical information there with that last search for his activation there.
Lightning Halo took care of Noble Hierarch, but another Mana Accelerant there in Bird's Paradise, followed up by Stirring Wildwood, has shown up. We're going to go back over to Todd Stevens. He'll draw a card. Picked up another Noble Hierarch. Stevens also has a copy of the Knight of the Reliquary if he'd like to deploy it. And we can't forget about his love for Courser of Krufix, which is in hand right now. Looks like Stevens just going to say go, however. Interesting. Howled Fountain untapped. Vendilion Click. Had a feeling it might come in. Could be Spellqueller time, and it is.
Yeah, I mean, Stevens can't just leave up 3 for the whole game. You're not going to get a better spot than that.
I'm with you there. There's an island. Here is a Jace the Mind Sculptor.
Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah, this is a pretty good turn. Bounce, replay, check out your grip. See that you have a Negate, a Surgical, a Courser, a Knight, a Noble, and a Queller. See if Stevens wants to take any of these cards or not, but Jace needs to exit the battlefield pretty fast because we saw what happened last time.
Yeah, I guess my instinct here is to take the Courser because Stevens needs mana to be able to function. Take nothing also makes some sense.
Stevens will draw. Picked up an Eternal Witness, not what the doctor ordered.
I think Stevens this turn just needs to play Courser and hope to hit a land.
Yeah, I think I'm with you.
Then he can start putting some more stuff out there and maybe work through the Jace over time.
I think in this spot you have to realize I got to get a little bit lucky here. Courser, if it reveals a land, lets you play it. Maybe that land lets you play Noble Hierarch.
Yeah, my issue with doing anything else is I think it doesn't acknowledge the severity of the situation.
Yeah.
I think that if you just put some stuff on the table that doesn't really matter this turn, you're not going to catch up down the line.
For me, in this spot, you're behind. You need to get lucky.
Yeah.
And I think that Noble Hierarch is powerful of a card as it is. It's too low power in this situation.
Well, I think the hope, my guess is that what Stevens is hoping to do is either draw a land or try to resolve the Courser next turn, and then he has Courser plus, he can, if he gets a 5th land, now he has Negate up, and now he can start, I just think that you're giving Nikolich too many uncontested brainstorms in this world, even if you draw well, to be able to come back.
That's the problem I have with it is we saw what put the game away last time. It was multiple Jace activations. Now, as a Horizon Canopy is the draw, that's the first brainstorm. It normally doesn't take many more after that.
Right, and not to run some revisionist history sort of stuff here, the Canopy on top, if he plays the Courser last turn, he has Courser plus Mana Accelerant, and now he has Negate up and Attackers, and
yes,
it just looks
it's much different.
It just looks a lot different.
I just think in that spot, when you're as far behind as he was, which it doesn't seem like he's that far behind.
Right, but he is.
But he is, because that's what Jace does. Now you're forced to just play into it. You just have to start playing stuff. We can't leave up this, I'm going to negate or Spellqueller. We're done with that.
Right.
This plays exactly what a Nikolich wants to do. He's the better control deck here.
Yep. Yeah, Stevens has some tools to hang around in late games. He's not just all creatures. But these late games obviously favor Nikolich. And what happened in the second game, which allowed Stevens to win, was he got out in front of things, forced Nikolich to react on his own turn or react inefficiently, and eventually Stevens got to resolve a Haymaker in Elspeth's Son's Champion. If we're just all sitting back here drawing some cards and killing some stuff, Nikolich is going to win that game, I think, more than 9 times out of 10.
With or without Jace.
Right.
And certainly with Jace. Here's Snapcaster Mage. Looks like Nikolich is going to target Lightning Helix. And Surgical Extraction is going to be played on Lightning Helix before Nikolich can recast it. Though I don't think Benjamin cares all that much about losing that card.
No, I think you got to be worried about losing cards like Cryptic Command that are so strategically relevant over long games. Losing a random removal spell and having the Snapcaster not flash anything back is just doesn't really matter.
Yeah. Well, 9 minutes, 35 seconds left here as Peak is going to be played. Here's Spell Queller. We're going to head back over to Nikolich now. He's got that active Jace as a Lightning Bolt at his draw. And we're going to see a Brainstorm again. That's the second one. 1 and a 2 and a 3. Colonnade, Tarn, Peak, the 3 cards. 2, of course, will be going back here for Nikolich. I think we're going to see a Bolt on that Queller. Yep. Now Peak will resolve, and Nikolich will draw a card. Nikolich knows exactly what he's drawing.
Same stuff we've seen before, Night Courser, Witness.
Negate over there as well. Birds of Paradise to draw. There's Courser. And Nikolich is not going to let this resolve. This will be a Logic Knot here. So a couple of cards will be delved away. Mostly lands, of course. Birds of Paradise will resolve. Stevens will take 1 to do it. But the problem is still on the battlefield here. And Nikolich is going to have to place that Logic Knot actually into his graveyard. Not leave it on the battlefield forever. Be a weird looking permanent. As there's a Sacred Foundry. And now here's Peak again. Witness, Negate, and neither Reliquary. Nikolich will draw. I think he'll be doing his best Shaheen Serrani impression now. Brainstorm with Jace.
Yep.
Yeah. Again, and again, and again. Don't think we've ever seen Shaheen activate the Fate Seal on Jace before.
And another one.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. And DJ Khaled, there it is, and another one. Field of Ruin. At this point for Todd Stevens, it's not. It's just too far behind. This reminds me of, the Jace days back in 2011 or whatever.
Yeah.
Where you just saw someone activate Jace 2 or 3 times, and it's like, well, that's why this is, the best Planeswalker.
It's not, like, obviously over.
No. But we played then.
Right.
We played then. So we knew, the Callblade Mirrors was just like, you got to kill that thing within 2 turns or you're not winning. That's how Jace works. That's why it is arguably the best Planeswalker of all time. The advantage might feel subtle, but I've got to sculpt my hand for the past 3 or 4 turns. Going to Brainstorm again, obviously. Draw 3 cards, put 2 back, probably fetch, shuffle. Make sure my draw step can be as good as it can be. And much like in the first game, you might see Nikolich just show his hand and say, look, you ain't killing me.
Well, it's different in Game 3. In Game 1, we got an interest in the clock.
Of course.
But, we're going to be back in the same spot of, come on.
Here's V-Click. Gonna start with the Field of Ruin activation, perhaps.
If the Click resolves, and Nikolich doesn't have a removal spell, that's threatening. And Stevens might be able to do something with this Negate here, try to punch it through. It's some hope. He's still way behind.
Yes, he is.
It's a card that matters.
Here's Cryptic. There's the Negate. Now, again, I'm not saying it's impossible for Stevens to win this game. I'm just saying it's really freaking hard.
There's a huge disparity in the resources in this game right now.
Yeah. I like this play by Nikolich if he's going to activate Field of Ruin to take care of the Canopy. Yep. Make it so that Stevens can't actually get a card from that, though I don't know if Stevens would have interest in sacrificing that right away. And now there is a Negate from Nikolich. So when the dust settles, Vanilla and Click will not resolve. And I believe Nikolich should draw a card from the Cryptic, which he will. Now we go back over to Stevens. He's got free reign to do whatever he wants this turn. The window is open for an Elspeth Sun's Champion. Not sure if he has it, though. Doesn't look like too much here from Stevens.
Yeah, you can play a Knight and a Witness this turn.
Nope, there is Witness. It is worth noting again, too, that as there's a land, and here's a Knight. Nikolich doesn't have Wraths. So he doesn't have a kill all your stuff button.
No.
As here's Jace. He'll have to do it through spot removal. And you found a pretty nice brainstorm there with Settle the Wreckage, Cryptic Man, Lightning Bolt all in there. A couple of cards going to go back. There's Path on the Knight. Jace has a propensity to cough up the necessary answers, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially when Nikolich has thinned his deck out so much. It's like no lands left in there. Gets to shuffle away the bad stuff.
We go back over to Stevens now. He'll draw a card. Misty Rainforest.
If I'm Nikolich's position here, though, I still want to be mindful of the clock, and even if there's some risk associated with it, I think he's got to consider beginning the Fate Seal.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. You're getting close to that point of things. Teferi will help. We're getting to the point now where he needs to find like a colonnade.
Yeah. Well, he needs to get it moving here.
Yep. There's Teferi. Draw a card. Untap a couple. He hasn't played a land yet, I don't think. Yeah, there we go. Now he'll untap a couple of lands. Stevens will sack a land. Nikolich have Electrolyze?
2.
Okay. Clear out those annoying birds. That'll be chump block and colonnade. That was the first thing that came to mind for me.
I'm not a huge fan. It's small. We're probably not talking about a game that's in contention here, but I'm not a huge fan of sacrificing. Okay, he's just tapping out. Never mind.
He's tapping out. Yeah.
I was going to say, if you're going to get Fate Sealed, you got Tireless Tracker in your deck, I would want to keep them.
Save the fetch. Yeah.
Not a big deal.
It's minor. Ultimately, it doesn't matter. Benjamin Nikolich going to win this match over Todd Stevens, 2-1. Jeskai Control going to take care of Matt midrange. Benjamin Nikolich, add another top 8 to the resume. Boy, look at this.